Welcome everybody, I'm John from Born to Produce, and you are going to learn how to use the awesome synth Vital. This is for beginners, so we're going to start with the very basics, and as the lessons progress, we'll get more into the advanced sound design stuff, building it up step by step. This entire course, just like Vital, is completely free, so let's go. Alright, so this is Vital. Now, first things first, and what most producers want to do when they get a new instrument is find out where the presets are. So just click up here to get to the presets. They're all listed down here. Now you'll probably have a few less if you got the free version, but no worries. Either way, you can filter out the different presets using bass, lead, or both. You can filter by producer, and if you like a particular preset, then you can just click on the star to favorite it. And really, that's about all there is to the presets. So have fun with them. But what I want to do is show you how Vital actually works. So Vital has been designed really well by Matt Teitel. If you're familiar with other synthesizers, you'll find getting started with Vital really easy. But when you start digging into it, you'll also find Vital is one of the most powerful synths out there, capable of creating some immense sounds. So first off, let's just have a quick high-level overview. So as with all synths, you have an oscillator section, then you have a modulation section where you can change the dynamics of the sound, and you can use these modulators to change any of the other parameters in Vital over time. And then you have a filter section to further carve out and change the texture of the sound. So those are the three main sections of the voice page. We will be talking more about the macros and the other functions as we progress. There are other pages in Vital, like the effects page where you can add reverb, delay, chorus, compressors, etc. And there's a matrix and an advanced page, but we will get to those later in the course. For now, I just want to start right at the beginning in the oscillator section. So there are three main oscillators and a sampler, which you can load obviously any audio samples you want into. Each oscillator is classed as a wavetable oscillator. This simply means that instead of just one wave shape like a sine wave or a square wave or whatever, you have many wave shapes all built into one table. The stock wave that you see when you've just loaded up Vital is actually just a single wave shape. So as I change the frame amount, also known as the wavetable position, you'll see nothing changes. But if I select a different wavetable, so I'm just going to go in and select something from the factory bank, as this is what comes with the free Vital synth. And you can see as I change the wavetable position, the actual shape of it changes. And of course, the sound changes with it as well. So each frame has like a slightly different texture to it. You can also see this in a 3D view as well, so you can actually see as you cycle through. Now, one thing that you can do is actually modulate the frame amount, which gives you one of the sort of classic sounds of a wavetable synthesizer. If you ever want to reset a table, just right-click it and click Initialize. So up here we have coarse pitch. If you hold down Shift and change this, it'll move it up and down by octave increments. And if you double-click any control in Vital, it'll reset it. There is also a transpose snap function, but we are not going to touch on that here. We will get to that in later videos. You have a fine pitch control here. So, for example, if you wanted to have like a vibrato sort of sound, you could put an LFO controlling the fine pitch amount. Level controls. Pan, of course. And again, just double-click to reset any function. So on the right side of the oscillator, we have controls, which further help us to change the texture of the sound produced by the oscillator. The first thing I want to talk about is Unison. So I'm just going to turn down the Unison detune amount for now. So Unison simply means you're adding more oscillators, known as voices, which is what the V's for there. So as I play, if I add another voice, you can hear the sound change slightly, so we now have two voices or two oscillators producing the same wave shape. Obviously, the more I raise this, the more voices you have, all producing the same wave shape. And like I say, it kind of thickens it up a bit, but the real magic happens when you add detune to the different voices. By the way, I'm not playing these chords live. This melody is actually from our Any Door Future Bass tutorial. I'm just going to play a quick clip. So in the tutorial, we literally make this from nothing right through to the final mix down and master, learning skills like music theory, sound design, vocal processing, song structure, mixing, and loads more. Now there is a link in the description if you actually want to check that out. But what I mostly want to point out is that all of the sounds you hear in that track, apart from the drums and the vocals, were actually made in Vital, even some of the SFX sounds. Now our sound at the moment doesn't sound anything like that sort of future bass lead that we had, and getting the start of that future bass sound is done by using more voices like we have and then using detune. So let me just raise the detune up as I play this. So all this is doing is detuning and stereo separating each voice from one another. So all 14 voices are just getting slightly detuned, and the more detune there is, the bigger the variance in pitch. You can actually change the strength of the different voices and the detune balance by left-clicking on the little bars here and dragging up or down. So you can have the focus more on the central voices, or the ones that have the most central pitch, or you can have the focus on the ones which have the most detuned pitch by pulling down. So you can see that little graphic change there. Again, double-click to reset. So we could, of course, then start adding other oscillators, adding, say, detune to these as well, differing amounts. Change the pitch of them up or down an octave. Maybe even add some glide. And we start getting something that's closer to a future bass lead. Also, this is the beginning of really what would be a supersaw patch that you might want to use in a trance track, for example. So whilst we're in this section, let's have a little chat about this. So the voices represent how many notes can be played at one time. So this is also called polyphony in other synthesizers. So if you're going to be playing more than 8 notes at a time, you need to raise that up. The bend amount simply refers to the pitch bend wheel, so how much it can change the pitch by. You can actually raise this up to, I think, 48, which is pretty impressive. So that's 4 octaves. Velocity track is going to look at the velocity data coming into Vital. So if you want some notes to sound softer, some to sound louder, based on the notes that you've pressed, then you need to turn a velocity track up. You can actually turn it to the opposite if you want, or the reverse. Spread, so if you want to make something mono that's coming out of Vital, you can turn the spread right down. Anything coming out of it will now be mono. Normally we just leave this up. Glide, as we've just touched on, bends the pitch from note to note, and you can change the sort of behavior of that as well. So if you want a very sharp pitch change or a very slow pitch change. But let's go back to just one oscillator for now. So there are other wave shape mangling functions over here. On the right hand side, we have the more traditional sort of sync, formant, quantize sort of settings, along with FM oscillation and ring modulation, which we'll get to a bit later in the course. But all we have to do is select one, and then we use this dial to modify it. On the left-hand side, we have these sort of slightly more unique spectral morphing capabilities. So vocade, formant, scale, harmonic stretch. I'm not going to read them all out, but they have some pretty unique characteristics. Now the phase position changes the start position of the wave shape, so whether it starts anywhere along the actual waveform itself. And using different phase positions for the different oscillators can actually give you sort of slightly different textured sounds in certain circumstances. But in order for it to actually have any effect at all, you first need to turn down the phase randomization. So at the moment, it's sort of starting at a random place, or with 100% up. It's starting at a random place throughout the entire waveform. On 0, it always starts from the beginning, or depending on where you actually set the phase position. So the sampler is default set to white noise, which when used subtly can add a nice sort of air to a lead sound, but you can use other samples in here as well. So just for example, let me actually bring in a pluck sound. Just drop it in there. You can do that from your DAW or from your operating system's Explorer window. And then when I play it, now I'm just going to play the sampler on its own. So at the moment, obviously, it's just playing a mono pitch sample, even though we're getting chord information. So in order for this to be recognized as a playable instrument, we have to first highlight the keyboard here. Now at the moment, we've also got a loop setting on this, so the sample is playing over and over again until the note is turned off. So I'm going to unhighlight that. So as you can hear, we can of course use that to sort of add additional texture to any sound we might want to create with the oscillators, which is actually how a couple of the sounds were made for that future-based tutorial. You also have play and reverse, so this, when you play it, will play once and then play in reverse, like so. You can have it on randomized position, so it will start from a random position. Not much good with a pluck sound, but if you have like a constant white noise, for example, you can see there it sort of starts from different positions. Can be good for creating nice sort of organic evolving sounds. But okay, let's turn the sample off and just go back to the first oscillator. And what I want to do now is look at the modulation section. So if you want to change the sound dynamically, as in you want to give it some attack or have a longer release, then all of this is done by envelope 1 by default. So dynamics relates to the shape of the sound on an amplitude level, so whether this is like a pluck sound or a pad sound is defined for the most part in this section. So we can add attack, for example, or we can add more release. And we can make it more plucky by using the decay, but in order for that to have any effect, we need to first turn the sustain down, or at least have a sustain that isn't 100%. For example. Now, of course, there is a lot more to defining whether something sounds like a pad or a pluck, but this does play a major role. All right, so I think that's probably enough for the first lesson. We will look more at the modulation section in the next lesson, and we'll also look at the filter section as well. So just so you know, at Born to Produce, we make tutorials for all levels of producers. We have beginner tutorials in most major DAWs, and we have start to finish genre specific tutorials for any digital audio workstation. And also specific courses like masterclass courses on song structure, mixing, mastering, and loads more. Follow the link in the description and definitely go check them out. Please like the video if this is helpful to you, and don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications. Thanks very much for watching, guys and girls. See you in the next one.